So it is 5:30 and I'm calling this meeting to order. First, a reminder that meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the Select Board, so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are, at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair, to the Select Board as a whole, and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones, and a reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. So, are there adjustments to the order of the agenda?
I don't have any.
Does anybody else have any? Okay. Can I hear, actually, Nate, I don't think you were at the public hearing.
Yeah,
So let's do these, as separately. So can I hear a motion to approve the minutes of April 3rd?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of April 3rd.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of April 3rd. Anybody have anything? Anybody? Fletcher, you good?
I'm good.
You good? So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, can I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the special public hearing on April 4th?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of April 4th, special
Second.
meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of April 4th, special public hearing. Anybody have anything there they'd like to change?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention? Okay. All right, so the next thing is the warrants to the treasurer.
Make a motion to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review. Karen?
Payroll warrant dated April 19, 2024 in the amount of $20,283. And this warrant does have the rec lead coordinator and concession stand
Okay.
monthly stipend.
That's right, they had the concession stand open at the, well, that was for the Eclipse party,
Right.
which happened on schedule. Are there any questions about the payroll? Moving on.
Accounts payable dated April 6th through April 19, 2024 in the amount of $290,391.06. So in this warrant, you will see ARPA allocations, the pumpkin patch, $69,000, Putney Community Cares for the nursing program, $12,000, Putney Community Cares for improvements, $58,369, and Putney Community Center for improvements, $78,000.
Okay.
Where are we at with the ball field?
I wanted to ask you the same question because I spoke to Larry today. You and he had talked about the deed?
He hasn't contacted me about the deed. Does he have questions about it?
He's okay with it, and he said that.
I wrote it, so I'm okay with it.
Right. But the thing is, I didn't get confirmation, so Leanne was out doing title work today. I did not get an email from her, but I let him know that we need to schedule a closing.
Okay,
So
so,
I'm hoping within 2 weeks we can do that. But he was okay with the deed.
good.
So we just need the paperwork, set a date, and we can,
Yeah,
because we have the funds.
I just need the town's EIN so I can do a transfer tax return.
I can get you that tomorrow, just remind me.
Okay.
All right?
And then, because kind of when I do a closing, I kind of like to see a check.
Right. Well, there's no check this week.
Yeah,
That's
but
true.
There can be in 2 weeks.
okay, thank you.
Okay. I had a question about, Ben Boyarko.
Where is that?
It's-
Oh, let me look, because it's not, programs at the library.
Oh, okay. Any other questions?
That was Dungeons and Dragons,
Oh,
just so you know.
That was
Yeah.
cool. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to public comments on items not on the agenda. Does the select board have anything they wish to say before I open it up? Okay, anybody in the room have public comments on items not on the agenda? Anybody online? Okay, hearing none, moving on to the town manager's report.
Highway Department spoke with Brian Harlow. River Road South paving is scheduled for the week of May 13th. Grading is happening and they are trucking sand from the Carpenter Pit. True Pawnee Incorporated completed the service line inventory work, which was under a grant. Basically, they were looking for lead pipes. They did report that all service lines are non-lead, so that's good.
Good.
And the hydrant at Christian Square in Route 5 is scheduled to be replaced on April 30th. We still haven't seen an accident report, but we're gonna move ahead and get that replaced.
Do you need the accident report for insurance purposes?
No, I already filed it. I filed a claim with the insurance company, our insurance company, but I'm hoping we can recover the money if we ever.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Level 2 energy evaluations for the town hall, fire department, and library have been received at this time. So I will get you the town hall study. The reports are approximately 90 pages or more. So I
They're
don't
fun.
want to make multiple copies, but I'll probably put them on the website. And I will share them with the appropriate parties, Planning Commission and Putney Historic Society. Work was completed through a grant, so there's no cost to the town for the 3 level 2 energy assessments.
Okay.
KRT appraisal update, so they have been to 400 properties, so it's about 44%, you know. We have 900 taxable properties in town. So a callback letter will be going out to 500 properties to schedule site inspections.
Okay.
So they couldn't get in,
Mhm.
but hopefully, so that number will be higher. Jordy will have remote access to the software next week, and he will start to code the business rentals. So values are not in the system yet, but he's able to do this without values. So,
Okay.
Wait, will you explain that, Karen?
Business rentals.
yeah,
That's probably from the homestead declaration allocations.
yes,
So usually when you declare a
Right.
homestead, you'll say, I have 20% rental,
Okay.
such and such, and that gets downloaded to the listers.
Okay.
And they split it up accordingly. So because it's by percentage, I assume that's why he doesn't need the values.
right. The other thing too is it'll give him a chance to start working with the new
Yeah.
program.
Cool.
which may take a little bit.
Thank you.
Revised website status update. So Rachel and I are in training on the new website. We have opportunity to add editors. And currently, there's like 27 people working on this website through Revise and,
Wow,
yeah. So it's moving along.
good.
We get to add to it now, so we're going to see what we can do with it.
Yes.
Reminder, Connecticut River Hydro relicensing comments.
Right.
They are now due by May 22nd.
Oh, good.
So there was an extension
Okay.
from the original date.
I think the Conservation Commission was planning on maybe giving us some feedback on what they wanted to know.
I received something from Ann today,
Okay.
but I didn't have time to
It's fine.
go into that. That's
I'm glad they gave us an
another day.
extension, because I,
Yeah. I wanted to report on Soundview paper status update. And I've been communicating with Adam Grinnell. He's with Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation in Brattleboro. He's working with Wyndham Regional Commission, Chris Campney. And Adam is talking with Soundview. So there's certain information that is confidential. So Adam will share with me from time to time what I can share with the community. So he is speaking regularly with Soundview ownership, and they're insured Soundview, and I have insured Soundview that BDCC and Wyndham Regional are ready to help support Soundview and Putney as they make their plans for future site uses. So
okay.
at some point, Soundview will contact us, but it's not quite there yet. Okay. Let's see this. So I've had 2 candidates interested in emergency management director. I have not received any information from them yet. There's one interest for health officer. I need to provide that person more information, and we'll see where that goes. I attended the Municipal Solutions Summit in Woodstock on April 1st and 2nd. This was New Hampshire and Vermont towns. They were either city managers or town managers. There were 22 participants, and in that room were 2 women.
Okay.
So,
Up from 0.
yeah. I got a lot out of it, and the structure of the summit was really helpful. But we discussed public engagement, the future of municipal government, regarding compensation and staffing, housing, shared services, and being a town manager. So it was interesting, and they do plan to do this annually. So even though there are conferences.
Can I have a whispering stop, please? Thank you.
Even though there are, opportunities for town managers to attend certain conferences, sometimes you don't get full benefit,
Yeah.
such as this one. So that's all I have.
So comments on Selectboard on the town manager's report? Questions? Any comments in the room about the town manager's report? Any comments online? Questions? Okay, moving on to boards, committees, and commissions, the planning commission status report. Let's see.
Greetings all. This is just my monthly April report for the Planning Commission. I'm Sue Coakley, Chair of the Planning Commission. Sorry to have my back to you. You have it in front of you in print, but I'll just say there are a few things I wanted to update you on. One is the status of the commission. We have lost one member, Ronan Ekstrom retired, and another member has indicated that she'll be stepping away as soon as another member can be found. That would be Vanessa Van Dien. So it's now becoming more urgent, given how much work the Planning Commission has this year to implement the town plan to find 2 commissioners. I provided in my report that there's on the website an FAQ about what planning commissioners do and information about how people can apply and what the policy is of the town for that. Things that we're looking for are people who can bring listening skills, listening to what others have to say. We need community knowledge and spirit, people committed to the futures of the town plan, for example. People who can be open-minded and fair and listening to what people have to say. People who can be prepared and available to attend our meetings. We meet monthly, but we're having additional meetings to run our advisory committees for the housing needs assessment and the zoning bylaws. People who are willing to communicate publicly, very helpful to have that, though we have a number of voices that can do that. And whatever relevant knowledge and experience they can bring to the table. We cover a lot of topics, but generally familiar with municipal planning and that role to serve town government. So we're interested in applicants that can participate, and we'll be stepping up our efforts to do outreach on that, but given the work we have in front of us, that's become an important item for us. The zoning bylaw modernization project update. Project is beginning. We have formed an advisory committee. People have been nominated and confirmed to participate. Our first kickoff meeting will be May 9th. And that will be to orient folks to the process and what we'll be doing, answer their questions, and to review a draft RFP for a contractor to be selected and to get comments on that scope of work and our list of people to send that to. Likewise, the housing needs assessment action.
I just wonder if you can tell us who's on that task force.
It's actually right on. I can't.
I would hate for them, I'd hate to miss the opportunity to give somebody a bag.
I think on the 9th of May will be a very good time.
Okay, all right.
And next week is the kickoff meeting for the housing needs assessment, the 25th, so I'll need a few bags for that.
Okay. Our welcome party
Yes.
favors, okay.
I would be happy to tell you who's
Yes, I'm
agreed.
also just curious.
Yes, well, of course we are. So Courtney Doubleday, who works with Realty in Vermont and New Hampshire. Matthew Hoffman at Landmark College. I'm sorry, I am reading you the Housing Advisory Committee list. I'll go back, start different
Okay,
list.
that's
For the zoning,
that's housing.
that was housing, but I'll come back to that. For zoning, it's Peter Paggi from the Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust. Lisa Chase, who sits on the Housing Advisory Committee. Doug Grant, who's a Putney resident. Ann Carey from the Conservation Commission. Eleni Aina Maksakuli from the Putney Diner. And she's representing the Equity and Inclusion Committee as well as Discover Putney. Okay. Jim Olivier, who's a Putney resident. Nancy Olson, who we all know from the Putney Community Center. And Rai Wepaloki, who lives here in Putney. And an ex officio member is Karen Astley. We have a couple of other people we're reaching out to confirm their interest in participation, but currently with Karen as ex officio, that would be 9 members of the zoning bylaw committee. So that's looking like a fairly robust committee. That committee will meet 9 times, we estimate, over a year.
And when's the first meeting, please?
The first meeting is May 9th, Thursday, and that will be held at the Putney Library. We'll be holding all of our meetings in rooms where the acoustics are sufficient for exchange. We probably won't be using this room. And also because of open meeting law, because we'll have more, a quorum of commissioners there, we'll be doing everything by Zoom and inviting virtual participants. And everything that we do must be open to the public. So we will also be allowing the public to be viewing these meetings. So the next part of my report is that we are ready to launch the housing needs assessment and action plan, and we have a committee of individuals, and I began that list, and I'll finish that list in just a moment here. That committee will have its first meeting next Thursday, the 25th of April. And once again, we'll be using that as a way to orient everyone to what the project is and their role, get their input and questions on that, set up how we're going to operate, and get their thoughts about that. And we will also review an RFP, draft RFP for the contractor to be selected. And both RFPs will be going out mid-May, around the 15th, 16th of May. We'll be getting those out so that we can pick contractors by mid-June. As I've mentioned before, we hope that there would be either a partnership of firms that would work together on those two, or maybe one that could take it on as umbrella, but we're also aware that it may be separate entities who take that on. So the members, to satisfy your curiosity and interest, are Courtney Doubleday, Matthew Hoffman, who is Associate Professor at Landmark College and has a background in municipal planning, Ari Jackson, who has roots property management here in Putney, and a resident here, Connie Richards, a Putney resident, who has been working with the Housing Solutions Task Force from the Vermont Council of Rural Development, and she's been on the Needs Assessment Task Force, met with her several times in that. And likewise, Bert Tepfer, who has also been part of the Housing Solution Needs Assessment Group, it will be on our committee. And once again, Rai Wepaloki wanted to participate on this one as well, and they will also participate there. There's a couple of other folks. Oh, I should mention Philip Wilson, up on Kimball Hill, Westminster Road, will be participating there. He's a Putney resident, but he works with refugees and immigrants and brings deep knowledge of that to our project. That was one of the specialties we're looking for, so we're very happy to have that type of representation. So a broad range of perspectives, and a couple of other folks that we're still reaching out to. Once again, Karen is an ex officio member of that as well. So we currently have, including Karen, 8 confirmed members of the Housing Needs Assessment Group. Any other questions?
No, I don't have any. Anybody else have any questions on those two things?
Yeah. The Housing Needs Assessment meeting will be at Putney Community Cares next Thursday, 6:30. Let's see. I have an update on Wyndham Regional Commission technical assistance to Putney. This has been a conversation going since about November, when the Wyndham Regional Commission invited Putney to identify areas of technical assistance they might address. We provided a list that I reviewed with you in December. I've been delegated by Karen as chair of Planning Commission to go to the Wyndham Regional Commission about that. We had several conversations with them, and we made an application. The town made an application through the grant writer for the town hall renovation for MTAP assistance directly to the state. We did not hear from the Wyndham Regional Commission since December, when we gave them that list. They were going to be in touch with us in January, and we didn't hear anything. And in March, the state made it clear that you could directly apply with them for MTAP assistance. So we did for project planning for ADA compliance for the town hall renovation. In the end, that is what has been awarded, or will be awarded, $10,000. Gretchen Haverlock, who is a consultant to the Wyndham Regional Commission, was writing that application. And quite sadly, we made that application, and then a week later we learned that Gretchen could apply for other money. We were going to go for project management for this entire project, but because we asked for the $10,000 for the ADA compliance, there's no other technical assistance that we can get as a town from that program. It's just too bad that the Wyndham Regional Commission and the state couldn't more clearly tell us what to do. One thing Gretchen will do for us, which is wonderful, she's going down that entire list of things that are action items from the town plan to recommend to us key contacts for funding, grants, opportunities that'll be coming up. So we at least have a roadmap to find other assistance, and that's really, really helpful. That's worth a lot to us as a town. And her role will be over at the end of April. So it's kind of beginning the end of March and ending the end of April. But we will make very good use of that, and we will apply for the $10,000 for ADA compliance planning for town hall renovation. In general, Chris Campany made it clear that any request for technical assistance from the town of Putney, or maybe any town, has to come from the town manager or the select board chair.
Okay.
So we will route communications that way in the future for these requests. Any questions about that?
No?
We'll take 10,000 and a lot of great help to look at
Yeah.
it. So I think that's worth something.
We'll learn the process and then they'll change it on us, I'm sure.
Yeah, this was a one-time ARPA funding.
Yeah.
Okay, town hall renovation. Thank you all for the hearing at the beginning of April. The grant was submitted to the Vermont Community Development Program for $60,000 for a planning grant for architectural support and environmental review for the town hall renovation. And in that hearing packet, just so everyone knows, we provided a list of all the funding that we are seeking for the town hall renovation and a prospectus about it. So that provided further information. We will know by June 6th whether our grant is selected for funding. So there's more follow-up we will be doing, but that was done, so that's very good. And now the development team will go back and look at those additional funding opportunities. Lastly, well, actually, let me just mention one thing that came to my attention today, because it's a new program, is that the Vermont Department of Community Development announced that the Preservation Trust of Vermont, with VCRD, the Vermont Community Rural Development Program, has launched a village trust initiative, and they will select 20 towns of 2,500 or less, maybe 100 more, to assist to set up a community trust to take on major projects like renovating your town hall or other such buildings, historic development. They have you form a 501c3 so that the trust can go on to do other development projects. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting opportunity, actually, and I'm learning more about it, and we'll come back to you. We need to submit, if we're interested in this idea, by May like 23rd, 24th, an application form to participate.
Okay.
Now, of course, we're 100 residents too many. That doesn't stop me from asking. If you all would like us to look into it further, I can send you further information. This came to my desk today, so I haven't had time to do much more, but I did download the information, read it, and I think it could be a great opportunity to do a number of projects that the town has interest in doing, and to provide a range of different kinds of funding. They'll help set it up, they'll help provide funding, they will provide up to $400,000 for the project. So this is significant and could be very helpful to Putney.
Do you have a sense of how that intersects with the housing trust ideas that are boiling up in the advised housing?
Yes, it
advisory?
actually could be used for housing. You could, for redevelopment of housing or, that kind of thing. So there's, quite a range of projects that are of interest in the town. So,
Interesting.
Yeah, so it requires some further research, and I'm happy to share more information about it. And I would recommend that we at least position Putney to be one of the 20 towns, and I'll find out more what that 100-person difference might mean for the application.
You said the deadline was the 23rd?
4th, I think.
24th. So we have 2 meetings since from here. So I think, wait.
3.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Oh, today's the 17th. 1, 2,
Yeah, you have a meeting on the 15th.
15. No, it's
Yeah.
2. It's still 2.
Yeah, so that would be.
2. So, yeah, the 1st or the 15th.
It would have to be that meeting, to.
Yeah, so maybe if we can get more information by the 1st, that would be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Working on it, and
Yep.
I will put together
You have 2 weeks.
a draft application that could be reviewed just to get some input and that kind
Great.
of thing. So, and I will, again, see if we can squeeze in with our 117 additional residents.
Okay.
Last thing, and I want to thank the town manager, Karen, for an update about the Soundview paper closure. The planning commission, when we met, again, continued to be quite concerned, what does this mean for the town? What do we do? How do we get information to the residents about it? And, I agree completely with Karen that we don't really have anything to say quite yet. But I do think it will be important, as soon as we can, to find some way to share information and have people talk about what's going on, because there's just a fair amount of swirling that's going on. We all hear it. And the best thing we can do is provide information when we can. And I'm talking with Discover Putney about how there might be a conversation just about economic development and revitalization. There are some other dark clouds in terms of closures of businesses that might be happening, and so I think it's a moment for us to really reflect, how do we respond and what can we do as a community? And I think that the work of BDCC and the Women Regional Commission and others, Preservation Trust of Vermont is another one, that can provide real help and resources to us. So looking forward to that, and I just want to let you know the Planning Commission we got a lot on our plate, but we all do, and we think this is something we'll contribute to when the time is right, and we'll keep in communication with you all about that.
Okay. Great.
That is my report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Any other questions from the select board? I want to just thank you all again for all of your hard work, and everybody scour the streets and try to find some volunteers for the planning commission.
It's a wonderful town, and I'm sure there are people here who can contribute.
Yeah,
Some
definitely.
good talents,
Yeah.
And we're a fun group.
Huh?
We're a fun group.
That's right. Plus you get a prize if you join.
That's right. Supply a bag.
Okay, are there any comments online about the planning commission report? Any comments in the room? Okay, moving on to the proclamation for National Therapy Animal Day. That's Martha Meigs and her rabbit Hope.
This is Hope. She is a 4-year-old French Angora rabbit who just loves people. So the group that we trained with is called Pet Partners. Unlike what I learned was bias the hard way last night, I brought her up to visit a friend of mine at Landmark. Somebody in higher ed there turned around and said, "No way can she be a therapy animal. Therapy animals are just dogs." Wrong. Pet Partners is the group we trained with per the recommendation of Lee Crocker, who was my advisor at Landmark. Trains 9 species: fur, dogs, cats, horses, guinea pigs, domestic rats, birds, miniature pigs, alpacas, and llamas. But to become a therapy animal, it's not just go sign a form. You're taking a course, you're taking an exam, then they have to go through the process of evaluation, which not all animals pass on the first try. She did. Just like how not all people are suited for all careers, not all animals are suited to be a therapy animal. It takes different qualities, and not all rabbits would sit this still. You probably have seen other rabbits who would be moving around the room right now, who would be not tolerating being held like this. How many therapy animals, I wonder, live in Putney?
I don't know. Do you have an answer?
I don't have an answer.
Okay.
I know that right now, We visit the food shelf on Fridays. We visited the school once, and we're gonna try and keep going after them. We've started the conversation at Landmark, but not gotten approval yet. We would love to go to the library, but they're right now only trialing Abigail Littlefield's dogs. She's not gonna eat your books. She just would love to be petted and played with. Can you help me spread the word that April 30th should be National Therapy Animal Day?
Okay, thank you. Select Board, have any questions for Hope? Martha came to me and asked if the Select Board would be willing to declare April 30th National Therapy Animal Day. I changed it to endorse because I don't think we're actually technically allowed to declare a national holiday because we're just a town in a state. But it reads like this: the Town of Putney National Therapy Animal Day Resolution. In the year 2024, the Town of Putney Select Board has resolved that there are thousands of pet partners therapy animal teams serving in communities across the United States. And whereas Pet Partners has designated April 30th as National Therapy Animal Day, and whereas scientific research shows that interacting with therapy animals can reduce stress, relieve depression, slow heart rate, lower blood pressure, and strengthen the immune system. And whereas therapy animal teams in the Town of Putney play an essential role in improving human health and well-being through the human-animal bond. And whereas therapy animal teams interact with a variety of people in our community, including veterans, seniors, patients, students, and those approaching end of life. And whereas these exceptional therapy animals who partner with their human companions bring comfort and healing to those in need. And whereas we encourage more pet owners to consider becoming pet partner volunteers to help our community by creating greater access to meaningful therapy animal visits. Now therefore, the Select Board of the Town of Putney do hereby endorse April 30th, 2024 as National Therapy Animal Day in the Town of Putney and encourage our citizens to celebrate our therapy animals and their human handlers. Now therefore be it resolved that this resolution shall remain in effect until the Putney Select Board amends, rescinds, or suspends it, whichever occurs first. Is there any comments or questions, discussion among the board? Does anybody want to make a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the resolution, the Town of Putney National Therapy Animal Day Resolution. Are there any comments in the room? Nothing?
If you're looking for us, we're often at the co-op on warm afternoons.
Okay,
We always love pets.
thank you. Are there any comments online? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Martha. And thank you, Hope, for being patient. Okay, so the next piece on our agenda is Select Board Town Manager roles and responsibilities. There's another resolution draft in your packet. Karen, do you want to explain this?
So, when I was at my Municipal Solutions Summit, this document was mentioned, and I had requested it from the town of Middlebury. And each year with the new select board, the town manager presents this document, and it outlines the select board role and responsibility and the town manager. So it kind of makes it distinct, clear. As there's so much to do, sometimes our roles like overlap, or, we tend to veer out of lanes. So this document kind of helps us and guides us in a better way. And I know the select board too has the opportunity to do the select board essentials through the LCT. And I've never attended one of those, so I'm hoping that this document here enhances that particular conference.
Yeah, I mean,
Or training.
they're dealing with select boards that have no town administrator all the way up to, you know, towns like Brattleboro that have town managers and assistant town managers, and
Right.
so they're rather broad in their training. So they don't specifically go into town the specific style of government.
And broad in general, that it's, it's interpretation, and I think this helps
It's super.
us.
It is helpful. Would it be helpful for us to read it?
Sure, you want to read it?
Or we could take turns. Okay, so one
Okay, well,
person
you
doesn't-
start.
I'll start. Okay, Town of Putney operating principles of the Select Board. Whereas Select Board members are elected to a governing board rather than as independent town officials, and whereas the Select Board functions most effectively when members work collaboratively to identify the most critical issues facing the Putney community in such areas as infrastructure improvements, economic development, energy efficiency, and sustainability, and then establish the funding and project priorities needed to address them. And whereas the voters of Putney have chosen to adopt a town manager form of government per 24 VSA 1231 by Australian ballot voted on March 1st, 1977. That's an interesting little piece of history. And whereas in accordance with 24 VSA 1235, the Select Board has appointed a town manager to whom the board has delegated full responsibility for the general supervision of the affairs of the town. Now, therefore, the members of the Town of Putney Select Board hereby adopt the following operating principles to affirm our mutual understanding of and commitment to certain leadership practices that support the efficient operation of Putney's municipal government.
Okay.
You're up, Dave.
In its relationship to members of the community, the Select Board affirms A, that Select Board members are leaders in the community and not simply messengers for their constituents. While it is necessary and appropriate for members to bring the concerns and opinions of their constituents to the board, members have a role in educating constituents to help them understand the bigger picture on issues of personal interest. In some issues, a board member may need to take a leadership role contrary to the views of his or her constituents. B, that the board represents the entire community at all times, and each board member must seek a balance between being responsive to the diverse and legitimate interests of the individual members of the community and the need to consider the common good. From time to time, these two may be in conflict. C, that board members should refrain from making statements or promises regarding the outcome of matters that will come before the board until after having a full and fair opportunity to weigh the merits of the issue during a board meeting. D, that from time to time, a majority decision of the board may be contrary to an individual member's interests or those of his or her constituents. However, every board member should abide by all decisions once they are made and demonstrate respect for the democratic process in their interactions with the community. Bless you.
2, in its relationship to the town manager, the Select Board affirms A, that having delegated full responsibility to the town manager and his or her staff for the day-to-day administration of Putney's municipal services and functions, the board's leadership focus is primarily on questions of policy and long-term strategic planning directed toward the welfare and betterment of the community. B, that it recognizes and supports the administrative chain of command and will refer questions, concerns, requests, and complaints from members of the community to the town manager for appropriate action or delegation to a department head. C, that board members will refrain from providing work direction or requesting assistance from town staff directly and will instead bring all such concerns to the attention of the town manager through the full board. Well, I go right through the next one. 3, in its relation to fellow board members, the select board affirms that action at official legal meetings is binding and that an individual member cannot bind the board outside of such meetings. B, that it will uphold the intent of executive sessions and respect the privileged communications that exist in executive sessions. C, that board members should refrain from communicating the position of the select board to reporters or state officials without prior agreement from the full board.
4, in its relationship to town staff, the select board affirms: A, board members will refrain from seeking input from individual town staff members outside of scheduled meetings regarding operational issues, utilization of staff, planning, or policy matters. B, board members will refrain from seeking support from individual staff members at all times. C, the board members will refrain from providing work direction or the perception of work direction or requesting assistance from town staff members directly, and will instead bring all such concerns to the attention of the town manager through the full board. Board members will recognize and support the established chain of command for employees wishing to voice concerns or make internal complaints about work environment, and if approached by a town employee, will refer him or her to the appropriate supervisor, department head, or the town manager. E, board members will refrain from publicly criticizing an individual employee, but will instead immediately bring any concerns about an employee's conduct or work performance to the attention of the town manager.
What does the board think?
I'm not in favor. There's a lot in here that I think is good, but I'm not in favor of the entirety of it.
Okay.
In particular, I mean, I know the staff member who I am most likely to annoy is Karen. I mean, when I get a bright idea, I usually call her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of my role. If I need some information, I mean, I don't try to tell Karen that she has to do something I tell her to do, or that I have any authority when I'm just acting individually. But I definitely see it as part of my job to educate myself about things and to ask town employees for information that would help me do my job as a select person better. And that would primarily be Karen and Jonathan. And I'm not usually bashful about bothering either of them. And I would certainly hope if either of them feels I'm consuming too much of their time, they'd tell me.
No, because my door is always open, and I've said that to the board the first meeting.
Yeah.
You know, I expect that board members are gonna come and ask questions. That's the only way you're gonna learn. So if this language needs to be softened a little bit, that's fine. But,
I mean, I agree with that. I was thinking specifically of the town clerk and, you know, the listers, or,
Right.
you know, if, you know, I wanted to talk to the library director, you know, the foreman of the highway, or whatever, just to gather information. But I do, working in a town as a town employee and having a lister board above us, I do recognize that there can be times where that board is basically interfering with your day-to-day schedule with impunity by being the board that's above you. So I think there is a balance here. I mean, when I'm interacting with the town staff, especially if it's a personal thing, I make sure that they know that it's a personal thing, that this is not part of my select board job. That's the way that I handle that. But I do think that there should be some understanding that, we're not gonna keep, hounding Jonathan about a certain thing if we need to respect their schedules, I guess is what I'm saying. So but I hear that, it doesn't read that way here. So we can probably
Change the
change
language,
that
yeah.
language to make it more clear.
So Fletcher, if you want to make changes and,
And we can also, percolate this to this
Right.
meeting and bring it back, bring the changes that you have the next meeting, we can go through them. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah, I think it's a good concept. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's an important, I think it's helpful to have these principles written down and
Right.
read every once in a while. And I agree, we could tweak them to make them feel more comfortable to us, but in general, I support the concept. I have a question about the board members refraining from communicating the position of the select board to reporters or state officials without prior agreement from the full board.
That would
What
be,
does
so if say, so full
Yes.
disclosure, I've been contacted by several reporters over the course of the last month. But during those times, I've been trying to be very careful to say, I can't speak for the whole board, but I personally think blah, blah, blah. So in this case, if we are contacted outside of a board meeting, unless the full board wants to make a press release, we are speaking as individuals
Okay,
and not as a position of the select board.
got it.
Okay, well, we all can have a go with our pens on this document, and let's bring it back to the next meeting, May 8th, with changes that we'd like to see, and maybe we can hash out something that we all can all agree to at that meeting or the next meeting after that. Does that sound good? Are there comments in the room about this document? Has anybody been able to see it? It should be online.
It is.
Are there comments online or questions? Hearing none. Next is the Municipal Roads Grants in AIDS Program Letter of Intent for fiscal year 2025.
So in your packet is our annual letter of intent to participate in the Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program. This is funding through the state of Vermont. Each year, towns get allocated a certain amount of money. So for fiscal year 25, V-Trans will allocate $17,000 to the town of Putney. And our local match would be $4,250 for a total of $21,250. We do take advantage of this grant each year. And this is to help with the roads and stormwater runoff, so ditching, and whatever else Brian ends up doing with the money. So basically what happens is we have high priority segments and we try to do a little bit each year. And we have a certain time frame to get those high priority road segments taken care of. But,
And the money that we get from the state is based on the mileage that we certified last week.
no, this is
No?
a different.
This is totally different.
This is totally different. So, I recommend that we take advantage of it.
Okay.
The other thing too is if, the highway department's been doing this work. So if there's money and, sometimes you need subcontract stuff out. So depending on, the weather. Because we get a lot of rain in the summer. We don't get much work done when it's raining. We're repairing all the time.
I don't work when it's raining either.
But I would recommend we take advantage of
Okay.
the grants and aid.
All right. So we have to approve this and also authorize you as the duly authorized representative? Is that how this
Yes.
reads?
Yeah.
Okay, so can I hear a motion to approve the letter of intent to participate in the SFY 25 Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program?
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry, and to designate Karen as our duly authorized representative. So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the letter of intent to participate in the SFY 25 Municipal Roads Grants and Aid Program and authorize Karen as our duly authorized representative. Is there discussion on the board? Any comments in the room about this program? Any comments online? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to select board unfinished business. The first one is the Emergency District 13 update. That's got your name on it, Peg.
Yeah, I did some work between last meeting and this meeting and found out more about that emergency district representative. And it's not something that we as a town assign. So I kind of want to apologize to putting it out that way to the community previously and having people write in and request to be a representative. It, you know, by statute, it is meant to a representative from each service organization, each EMS service organization would is able to send a representative to the district. And at this moment, we don't have a medical service here in Putney because our medical folks are working through rescue. So we're not even in which I want to say thank you very much, medical folks, for working so hard through rescue to provide service to us. But that means that we don't even, we don't have a service to provide, that we can even get a representative from to go to this district. So we can visit that again when we stand up a medical service in Putney again. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Is there any discussion or question on the board? Thank you.
Thanks for the
Yeah,
Yeah.
for doing the research. I was having a hard time trying to find stuff like that, so I'm glad you were able to dig that up. Are there comments in the room about the emergency District 13 representative process, statute? Are there comments online? Okay, moving on to the Putney Fire Department reports. I'm gonna pause here and ask if there's anything anybody wants to disclose.
I will disclose I've had 21 years in the Putney Fire Department. I was demoted and I was reinstated and opted not to go back.
Do you feel that you have a conflict of interest?
I do not.
How do other board members feel about that?
It's more of a history than I have.
How is it not a conflict of interest?
I have no skin in the game. It was, like I said, I opted not to go back. I wasn't not allowed to go back. I have history and knowledge of the department, but I don't know. How does the board feel?
I think we should spend some time looking at the conflict of interest policy because I can't, unless somebody has some information that Eric's going to benefit financially from participating in any decisions about the fire department, I don't see how it fits. The problem with the conflict of interest policy is it tries to deal with, well, as we were advised at the League of Cities and Towns training on select board members, we act as all three branches of government. And the kind of conflict of interest that would be relevant, a bias conflict of interest, is only when we are acting in a quasi-judicial capacity. Other than that, the conflict of interest policy is if you're going to gain, you or a family member are going to gain financial.
Is that
It
the
doesn't,
only?
no, it doesn't. It's so the two conflicts of interest is a direct personal conflict of interest arises when a public officer or member of the public body acts on a matter that has a direct impact on the officer in a non-financial way, but is of significant importance to the officer. And an indirect personal conflict of interest arises when a public officer or member of the public body acts on a matter in which the officer's judgment may be affected because of a familial or personal relationship or membership in some organization and a desire to help that person or organize further its own interests. And I'll also further state that a public officer of the public or a member of the public body shall not participate in any official act or action if he or she has a conflict of interest, whether real or perceived, in the matter under consideration. I believe Eric when he says that he does not feel that he has a real conflict of interest. However, I do feel that there is a community-wide perceived conflict of interest in this case.
Yeah, I think since it's been brought up at least twice, that's at least perceived.
And again, I would say that those are relevant to quasi-judicial proceedings.
It's actually, we actually have a section that has.
I've read the conflict of interest policy. I'm thoroughly familiar with it. I am also saying that if you parse it, it's there, all of those, simply having a bias, having strong feelings, heck, that's part of being a select board member. I mean, I'm not supposed to come at things without an opinion. I'm not supposed to sit on a quasi-judicial proceeding if I have strong feelings about the people or a bias or any of that. But I don't think it applies to simply to normal either, well, the executive portion of the three branches or the legislative portion. Of course I have opinions. Sometimes I have strong feelings. And those don't create a conflict of interest. And I don't believe the perception of a conflict applies to those proceedings either. It's when we act in a quasi-judicial capacity that those things are a problem. And that isn't the situation. I also trust Eric's judgment on this. If he says he doesn't have a conflict, I think that's the end of it.
Well, at the end of the day, Eric's judgment rules here because we can't make him recuse himself. I will just say that that is not the way that I read our conflict of interest policy.
Well, you and I disagree then.
I hear that. And that's why we're all here. We have 5 members. We can disagree on lots of things. Nate, you wanted to read that, or?
I was just, rereading what you said.
So, I would like to go on with this. It sounds like Eric does not feel that he has a conflict of interest and will not recuse himself, but I did want to bring it up publicly because it has come up several times. So, unless anybody has any other comments on this?
We have no authority to make you recuse yourself.
Yeah.
But
Maybe we could talk a little more in executive session, a little deeper in this.
Well, we need to talk about this in open session because that.
So obviously you guys have some people in your ear about this.
I mean, I can just say from the meetings that we've attended in the last month.
Yep. Seems to be certain people, yes, I agree. And I guess maybe next meeting I need to put something together and I need to air everything that's happened in the past, whether it's dirty laundry or not. And maybe we just need to get that out on the table and that'll clear up some perceptions from people. Because I think that's where it's come down to. And I'm perfectly fine with doing that. I would rather, stuff is water over the bridge, but if this keeps dragging out like this, I have no problem with doing that.
not sure what you're saying. You have no problem with doing what?
My whole, what happened, you know, how I was wrongfully demoted and then put back in my position. There's been a lot of rumors of what happened. I was reinstated and I did not go back because I didn't feel I wanted a target on my back. Throughout the whole thing, I felt it was better to let it just lay and go with that. So, you know, I can, like I said, I can disclose my whole thing I went through. You know, what happened and this and that. So maybe that's the way to do it.
It's interesting because to me, that's not the relevant information.
I think,
To me,
I guess,
the relevant information is whether or not I feel like your experience makes it difficult for you to be thinking, as we're saying here, you know, in that last thing we read about our roles, you know, thinking in a broad way about the needs of the community and able to lay your personal grievances and concerns down. And that's where I'm not, you know, in my experience with you, I have questions about that. So I just want to put it out there as a concern, and ask you if you, and it seems like it's a concern for people in the community, some people, and I just want you to be aware of that, be sensitive to that.
yeah.
And really check yourself when things are coming up that you have that are related and are related to your history with the fire department. And because it's not really it's not a particular issue because it is history. It's water under the bridge.
Yeah.
It's more like I want to have faith and I want to have confidence that we can all bring to where we are right now our best selves to be making decisions about going forward without bringing a lot of, you know.
So anything that's water under the bridge, and I feel I can. So.
All right. So, and I just want to also piggyback on what Peg said, and I just feel that there is a certain legitimacy that this board needs to retain, which is why I brought it up publicly now, because this has been swirling around, and I haven't forced anybody to disclose their history until this point. And so I'm following our procedure, and like I said, like I'm going to tell the public again, we can't force people to recuse themselves. We can request it, and then they can refuse. Eric has made it clear that he doesn't feel like he has a conflict of interest, and that's his prerogative. So I would like to move on to the actual discussion, which is the town manager update. It's the first piece.
So I was asked to do an update on the fire department, and so basically from the 3rd when operations were suspended, a lot has happened. A lot has been displayed on Facebook and the town website. I've talked to a lot of people before I went on vacation and after I came back from vacation. So as I gather information, I'm learning a lot about the fire side of things. As we determine, EMS is separate from fire. They're two totally distinct disciplines with different training and certifications. And for fire, what I learned is that the state of Vermont does not require firefighters to be certified, which I found interesting. But We do have several firefighters right now that are either certified 1 or 2, and it's a total of 10 firefighters. And their certifications will run out June 30, 2024. So in order to keep those certifications active, they have to have a certain amount of hours of training every year. If these certifications expire, those folks will have to put in anywhere from 260 hours or more to recertify. And honestly, I don't want to see that happen. And that's my personal opinion. So,
Karen, do you know how many of those 10 firefighters are landmark students?
I
Graduating landmark students?
don't think, none.
None, okay.
Right, I don't think there's any. I don't want to waste my time looking for it, though, but Brian
No,
just
that's,
said no.
okay,
so,
I'm just, I
yeah.
know that was a
Yeah.
issue when we
Yeah.
were bringing it up before.
So that's what I learned on that. EMS is, as everyone knows, Rescue has onboarded our EMS folks. There was a letter reflecting that as well to the public. And I want to thank, and I did it in a letter, but there's a lot of people to thank that I reached out to. And people that have been continually making phone calls and, putting things in place that has protected this community with emergency services. And so Rescue, Drew Hazelton, Chris Fennell, and Evan Martin, they were instrumental in onboarding our folks. And the people who still respond to calls here in Putney, which, I know Rory's doing that now. And so, I also contacted VLCT Passive Risk Management today, and I spoke with Phil Woodward, and what I had found out is that our insurance policy does not state the town is obligated to maintain a fire department. So he also stated that the legal risk by sending inadequately trained personnel or the lack of staff personnel to an event is much greater, especially if someone may be injured or death resulting.
Yeah, okay.
So those are grounds for litigation according to our insurance company. I think there's a lot of work to be done, just on the state level, especially with certifying, firefighters and EMS. It's not easy to look any information up. It's not readily available like EMS certifications where they're national and you can go online and find that information. So I've been doing the best I can to fill in the gaps and talking to a lot of people. I still have phone calls out to several people that have not returned my phone calls. I did speak with Dummerston and Westminster, and I spoke to Rescue today. And from the conversations, they can continue with mutual aid on the fire side. EMS is taken care of through Rescue. And there is no liability with the EMS because they're operating under the license of Rescue. So from my office, I would recommend, or I'd like to see mutual aid continue until we can, have a solution. But I also want to make the comment that it can't be indefinite.
Sure.
So,
That segues nicely into our next piece, I think.
so.
So we don't know, is those 10 individuals that need, well, I guess you call it continuing ed training, do we know what kind of training they have? Do we know what kind of certifications they have?
I don't have that knowledge,
Okay.
nor if I looked at it, would I know what I'm looking
Yeah.
at. So that is a question for Brian Harrow or somebody that can,
Okay. I guess I'm also wondering how, and maybe you didn't get this answer from the LCT, what would be the, like, there must be a minimum number of people that you would want to have to be on a fire truck, and there must be a minimum number of people that you would want to have on a roster in order to safely run a.
Can I just,
Go ahead.
I would prefer, of course, there's some answers to
Yeah.
that, but I don't think this is the time to
No, I just
have that
wanna, no, it isn't,
conversation.
I'm just hashing it out now so that we can start going into this conversation here.
Right, but
There's
I
a
think-
certain number of, there's some things that we don't know, and I think that this is gonna start getting us closer to those answers.
Right.
Because this, and maybe we should just go through this. If we're standing up an advisory task force resolution of this nature, theoretically, it would come up with minimum certification, how many people you need on a department, all those things. Hopefully that's part of that recommendation that comes out of this task force.
I would assume that would have to be
Yeah.
part of what they looked at.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But I want to say about the training piece that as a select board member, I support 100% putting into place whatever systems and financial support we need to keep people trained or to train up new people if they want to join. I mean, I would really, really support keeping the training part of things going. So that I just support that, 1,000%.
That was my understanding of why we didn't shut down, we suspended.
Right.
That the
Right,
training
the
would still
training-
happen.
Yes, the training, there's
Okay.
a budget for it.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's people in the department that can train.
And Brian Harlow is interim at the moment, so
Right, okay.
it's, I have to lean on him to be sure, and he's been making phone calls as well. He knows the requirements.
Okay.
Um,
Brian, do you want to speak to the?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked with Pete Lynch. He was the former chief of the fire academy, and
Okay.
he said he's willing to help as far as maybe not doing all the training for us, but certainly putting us in touch with the right people so we have, I mean, to a certain extent we can do some of the training in-house, but it's kind of nice to have somebody who actually is a certified instructor to do some of that.
Sure.
And that's an option. It just needs to be put out there and figure out when and set it up.
Okay. Okay, we don't need to act on that, that's,
No. No.
it's under control, so to
Yep.
speak. Okay. Good.
And given where we are, I think it would be great for us to get some updates on that, just because for the whole community to hear on a regular basis what's going on in terms of training and how, how we're doing in that department, since that's been part of the concern, and lack of information. So I just, as a courtesy I mean, I don't want to mandate what somebody should do, but as a courtesy to the select board and to the town, I would really love some regular updates on the training and where we stand at any time.
Well, I can discuss with Brian. He
Okay.
can give me the information,
That'd be great.
because June is right around the corner.
Yeah.
I guess it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right.
To the minimum people on a truck, the answer to that is a little bit is, that's a tough one to answer. You don't have a department where you have people that are scheduled to work on certain days. So you're at the mercy of who's in town at certain times when the emergency happens. At minimum, I would say you need at least one person on the truck that has certification. And if you have one person on the truck that's certified and you have a bunch of the kids from Landmark, and those guys are great, they work hard, they're there for the right reason, it just changes how you respond to things. You know, you may not be able to go whole hog into going into a fully involved fire. You might have to hold back until people get there, but at least it gets you that initial response. It gives you get somebody there to put eyes on it, to give your mutual aid an idea of what's happening. And it sets stuff up so when your mutual aid gets there, you're not starting from zero. You already have lines pulled, water on the fire, and when you get certified people that either come that are from Putney or mutual aid, they can just roll right in and continue in that. Instead of sitting around, waiting and starting from zero when they get here, which they're already delayed because it's not their town, no fault of theirs, obviously, but they're going to be delayed because they're coming from their town. So, it really needs to be. There's no right or wrong answer to that. It's a case-to-case basis that you can what if anything to death, and you could still say what if to that answer. So there's no right or wrong answer to that.
Okay, that's
But-
fair.
Can I make a comment? I should have mentioned too that, so with talking with the mutual aid neighboring towns, Dummerston has responded to 4 calls
In Putney.
in Putney,
Okay.
and then Westminster has responded to 5. And it appears that Dummerston and Westminster did respond to the same.
Brattleboro one.
Yeah.
A car accident on Interstate. Brattleboro
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
So, I didn't talk to Brattleboro, I didn't get that far, but, so that's where we're at with the call volume,
Okay.
so,
Thank you.
Okay.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, do we want to get into the advisory task force resolution that
I would love to get.
Peg drew up?
Could I make a couple of comments also, just generally? I continue to talk to people. I continue to try and get as much opinions, input as possible. And one issue that has really come up is the issue of respect. And I would like to just say, in all my conversations, I have never heard anyone say that they thought any member, any Putney firefighter or EMT was late in responding to a call. I've never heard anyone say they thought they didn't bring 100% to the call when they arrived, that they worked hard and they were fully there. I've never heard anyone say that they thought any member of the fire department or the EMTs didn't care. Those are all givens as far as I know. And everybody I've spoken to has any direct experience has expressed unqualified gratitude for the work that Putney firefighters and EMTs have done on their behalf. What I have heard and read is criticisms of, the organizational structures that we have in place, and I frankly lay most of the responsibility for that at this end of the room, not at your end. I think the select board has been less than on top of the issue. Most recently, the issue was brought to the fore by the AP Triton report, obviously. But it's hardly the first time that these issues have been pointed out. And in fact, and from my research, in 1985, then town attorney Bill McCarty, believe it or not, because he's the last person I would have thought of as a town attorney, but he, in a letter to the select board, put it somewhat politely that he had, quote, not been able to find anything that remotely resembles the arrangement that the town has entered into with the Putney Fire Department. Having received that letter, as far as I can tell, the select board didn't do a darn thing about it. And then some incidents came up in 1999, and an auditor's report came in that really questioned whether the fire department was effectively, I hate to resolve all these things down to insurance, because I'm much more interested in the safety of the people than the insurance after the fact. But the auditors were concerned, and they didn't feel, they questioned the status of the fire department in relation to the town. So it came up, and in fact there was a special town meeting called to try and resolve the issue. That happened, I think the meeting didn't actually happen until May of 2001. But the article that came up was to formally designate a town fire department, to incorporate the fire department into the town governance structure. And at the time, I think it was Dave Hannum, proposed an amendment that these issues between the town and the fire department, that everybody sit down and work them out. He even tried to put a deadline on it. The amendment was approved, the article was passed, and as far as I can tell, nothing happened. I mean, I think probably there were some discussions, but there was no real resolution of it. Nobody figured out how to make the structure work better. Can I call on a member of the audience who's waving a finger? I mean, I got more to say, but if he's got something relevant.
I guess I'm feeling a little frustrated with this line of discussion, because we're talking about things that happened before I was even lived in Putney. Right. So I don't think that we really need to rehash the past here, and I personally would like to move on to what we going forward, and not what happened in the past.
I personally would like to be allowed to finish.
Then go ahead, but I don't want to back and forth between you and other members of the public.
I like to hear from the public, but that said, it's, I think the past informs the present. I think there's a heck of a lot of history here, and we got to deal with it. We need to get it out on the table. And I mean, we're now talking 1985 this started, was literally brought out explicitly in writing to the select board and hasn't been dealt with. This is, what, 45 years now, we're still dealing with this. I think part of the problem is that and to be honest, I think the fire department has never fully appreciated what it means to be a department of the town, and that's caused some conflict, because there have been recent back and forths over whether the fire department is subject to the town policies, town personnel policies in particular. And the answer is it is. But there's been pushback on that and no clear resolution. And, you know, I think the only way we're going to find a way to move forward now is we all sit down at the table and work these things out. We got to figure out, you know, how we as a community interact with one another and not perceive what each other is doing as if it's done through a lack of respect. I think there's plenty of respect. There's also a lot of misunderstanding. And I think until we all sit down together and work it out, we're going to continue to suffer from misunderstanding. So I really hope we can move forward with that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Good time to transition, I
Transition
think,
into
to the forward-looking, coming together at the table and trying to come up with some solutions.
I'm sorry,
Hold on,
may I make
who is that?
it's Eleni from the diner.
Sure, go ahead. I do want to get to this though.
I just want you to have some other information of how this is affecting the people in town and personally me as a business owner. Is this the right time for me to speak, or would you rather I do it at the end?
Go ahead.
So I unfortunately got an audit from my my insurance, my business insurance, and it's due May 1st. And one of the questions is if our fire department is active, which I answered yes. But so they wanted a time of the response time. So previously I answered 5 minutes because I'm 5 minutes away from the fire department. But now my answer changed to 30 minutes because I'm 30 minutes away from the Dummerston Fire Department and the Westminster Fire Department. So this affected my insurance premium by $900 every 6 months. And I was on a phone call today for about an hour and a half with my insurance agent, and they have to protect themselves. So this is how this is affecting me as a small business owner. I have a lot of expenses. This is not what I needed. So I know the fire department is active, but response time to a business like mine is very important. Okay. So I just wanted you to know I am not blaming anybody. I am not putting fault out there. I just wanted you to know how this is starting to already affect personally me, I guess, but maybe later on the community also.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other comments online or in the room? Okay, let's move on to this resolution.
Yeah, I've made a bunch of copies if anybody in the room wants a copy. This is a draft. And the idea behind this draft resolution is to come up with a task force. So actually, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it so that we're all clear and we're not jumping around on it. So this is a Fire and Rescue Advisory Task Force resolution. Be it resolved that this board shall establish for the town of Putney, effective whenever we decide, if we decide to make it effective, Putney Fire and Rescue Advisory Task Force, serving as an advisory committee to the Select Board. And be it further resolved that the purpose of the Fire and Rescue Advisory Task Force shall be to make a recommendation to the Select Board on the future model for Putney's fire and rescue services and staffing. Final decisions on the future of the fire and rescue will be made by the Putney Select Board. Be it further resolved that the Fire and Rescue Task Force exists upon formation of the Putney Select Board in a duly warned meeting. Be it further resolved that the duties and functions of the Fire and Rescue Task Force shall include but not be limited to the following: reviewing the January 2024 AP Triton Fire Department operation analysis, paying particular attention to those aspects of the report that relate to service models and staffing. Engaging the current and past membership of the Putney Fire Department and Putney Fire Association in order to glean their experience. Research possible models, staffing options for Putney Fire and Rescue Services, complete with costs and response times implications. Facilitate and analyze a community conversation about options for fire and rescue services. Present recommendations to the Select Board by the beginning of September. Be it further resolved that this task force shall have no more than 7 and no less than 5 members, with members being appointed by the Select Board. Be it resolved that the membership of the committee shall include a Putney community member with EMS expertise experience, a Putney community member with fire service expertise experience, an ex officio member representing the Putney Select Board, a Putney community member at large, and somebody with extensive fire and EMS experience outside of the Putney Fire Department. The town manager and the interim fire chief would serve as non-voting members to the task force. Be it further resolved that given the urgent nature of the work, the Select Board will hire a trained facilitator to help the task force stay focused and productive. Be it further resolved that priority will be given to parties in choosing task force members with the ability to put community needs above personal grievances, to collect, analyze, and summarize a large amount of data, to communicate fire and rescue information in an understandable fashion to the general public so that we can engage the public in a conversation about what choices we want. Be it further resolved that the Fire and Rescue Advisory Task Force shall comply with open meeting law. The facilitator shall be responsible for educating or coordinating the education of new committee members on open meeting law. The Fire and Rescue Task Force shall decide its own meeting schedule and structure, and it shall meet no less than 2 times each month until September 2nd when it makes its recommendation, or beginning of September when it makes its recommendation.
What does the Select Board think about that?
I think there's a piece missing, which is the Volunteer Firefighters Association as a separate entity.
As a representative?
Well, it's you mention them in here as a source of expertise, but,
right.
But we really need to. They need to have a place at the table, because I think they also have a perspective that we need to address or at least incorporate into our thinking. And I'm not clear what that is, frankly. It's one of the things, the Triton report also touched on it, but that this is not a common structure for fire departments, and it's not at all clear. And now, I mean, from what I've been able to find out, the Firefighters Association has also evolved,
right.
From the host company.
We could go into a whole history of that too.
Yeah.
But so are you saying that you think that the Putney Firefighters Association itself should have a representative to this committee?
I mean, because I think the association plays a role now that is largely overlapping with just the fire department itself, but also distinct.
Okay, I'm totally.
That's fine with me.
I'm totally
I have a impression that a large majority of the people who are either EMS or fire service are already part of the fire association, but we could also just have another person who was part of that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd say Rory probably has good input on that.
Rory?
Just to make the clarification, the Firefighters Association is a legally distinct entity from the Putney Fire Department, and its focus is, at least recently since my involvement with it, is just to prioritize health and wellness for the members of the Putney Fire Department. Beyond that, it doesn't really do or focus on anything else. The priority was always to health and wellness. and community outreach type stuff. No official fire department related activity, because that was always done through the fire department itself.
I'm not sure that's true. I mean, I just thought that they did fundraising for things for the fire department, and it wasn't really just about the health, you know. I mean, I'm not making any comment other than that was my understanding of it.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Marcellus.
Thanks.
I was the chief when the Putney Firefighters Association was put into being. In reality, it was became a 501c3, so we could have, when we went out and got donations and stuff, they had a tax write-off. We went through a couple years of work to get there, and there were stuff that the money bought, like thermal imagers and stuff that the town couldn't afford at that time, which at that time was over $25,000 just for one piece. And that's where it started. And then it's proceeded on from there.
So I wonder if anybody can speak to, because the issue here is whether we're getting good representation on a task force. So my question, and I wonder if anybody can speak to it, is whether having another member specifically as a representative of the Putney Firefighters Association, whether that would give us more representation. So I would be really open to hearing anybody who had an opinion about that issue in particular.
Does anybody have a good opinion? Not a good
You know,
opinion.
would it
I didn't mean that, a good opinion or a bad opinion. So does anybody have an informed opinion about that? Rory?
I mean, the membership's largely the same.
Okay.
Very, very few exceptions, if any. You don't have to be a member of the fire department to join the Firefighters Association. You just have to care about being involved in some way outside of official fire department activities. And at the same time, if you do become a member, a town employee to the fire department, you are not required to join the association. It's all on a volunteer basis, I guess. So it's essentially the same pool of people.
So I guess the only advantage we would have is if we could find somebody who was a member of the fire association that was not a member of the department. Does anybody know if such a person exists?
I think the only person was Tom, right?
Yeah, I think Tom might be the only.
But he's not a member of the.
Okay, so I would say that it's
Then
not
that
going to give us a wider perspective, which is what we're trying to get.
I'm not sure, to me, I mean, the reason I brought it up wasn't just to seek a perspective, but also as we try to come up with a plan to move forward, as Rory points out, the Volunteer Firefighters Association is a separate legal entity. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to see if when we're trying to figure out how to move forward, there's some collaboration that the town can have with the Firefighters Association that is different than simply the town fire department. Maybe the volunteer firefighters, I don't know that a lot of money's been raised recently, but maybe that's a way to support the fire department that would be useful to explore and see whether the association is open to it.
So maybe that's part of the charge.
Yeah, I would guess, but
But
also I think it'd be useful to have them at the table.
Well, it sounds like they already are at the table.
To a degree.
And we can specifically appoint a person to represent the fire department, the Putney Fire Association, but I think what Peg was getting at was that, and what Rory was getting at was that the members that we already have on here, a Putney community member with, well, I guess we don't specifically say that they were on the department, so maybe it would be
Yeah,
good.
let's add it. I mean, it can't
let's just add
hurt.
it. Okay.
You know,
A member,
I'm a little, I think we can add another person or two without it becoming unruly, and that
Yeah.
seems like a perfectly reasonable
well,
person.
that
to
would
add.
be 7, wouldn't it?
For instance, who's the
that-
president of the association right now?
That would be Ed Martin.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Six.
Member of the Putney
That
Fire.
would be 7, 8 if we have,
Oh, a facilitator,
what facilitator isn't,
isn't counting.
it doesn't count.
I counted 7, what?
What do we
There was
count
a-
the
there
town
was a-
manager?
Base, oh,
1, 2, 3,
oh, because you have
4,
2 on here, I get
6,
you.
7 is,
You tricked me into the bullet points here.
Okay,
I was counting
so-
bullet points. not
okay,
people.
I know, so let's
Okay.
say no more than 8. We'll just change the wording there.
8s can be problematic because it's an even number,
That is true.
so how about 9?
No more than
No
9.
more than 9.
Oh, good God, no more than 9. It'll
Okay.
be, that'll, okay.
All right,
So we're adding one person who's a representative of the
Putney Fire Association.
Putney Fire Association.
Technically, the Putney Volunteer Firefighters Association.
Volunteer.
Not knowing that whole legal name cost me a lot of time with the Secretary of State's office.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, so we got that. So does anybody else, did the select board feel like, I mean, if we're bumping it to 9, then we have one more spot. And is there
Right.
some
But
other
we say someone with
route that we're
extensive fire
not?
and EMS experience outside of the Putney Fire Department.
What about 2 of them?
Yeah, maybe add 2 of those.
Sure, 2
2
outside of,
outside, yeah.
sure. Work,
Eileen, can I make a comment, please?
One second. I'll open it up in a second. I'm just, good?
so I'll put that down here as draft, yeah.
Who is that? Zachary? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Zach. So I just wanted to make a point. It feels like the purpose of this committee, and correct me if I'm wrong, the purpose of this advisory committee is to really take a look at the objectives of what the fire department should look like from a fresh slate. So I think that my opinion would be, while you're composing the members of this advisory committee, there should be a strong emphasis on people outside of Putney in the professional perspective, because, and I don't want to imply any disrespect to anybody, but there appears to be a lot of uncertainty within the firehouse right now, and I think that a fresh perspective and a clean slate is what this department's going to need to become successful in the future, whatever happened in the past. So I think that having, people that don't know necessarily the drama of the past and people that can look at the future and what the town needs is going to be really important.
Thanks for that comment. I do feel like we kind of try to get at that to some degree with who would be given priority to serve on the committee. I am reluctant to put it completely out of Putney's hands.
Right,
To some degree.
in this situation, we have, a community member at large.
Mhm.
We have 2 people who are in-house, or have been recently,
Yeah.
have been in-house. Make it 3 if we add the volunteer. Firefighters Association. I don't know, I think we're pretty well balanced, and if we can really try to find people who have demonstrated a willingness to be forward-thinking, that we have people here who are willing to do that. It's not like we don't have anybody in-house who's forward-thinking. We just have a large percentage of people who who aren't. But we do have people who are forward thinking. I trust that we can.
I understand where you're coming from, Zach, but I agree with Peg. I think we have the talent within Putney to remodel ourselves in-house, so to speak.
With the help of
with help, yeah.
It's
with the
not
help of
just
outside
in-house,
people and a facilitator. I feel like that's pretty solid.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not implying that there shouldn't be any Putney representation. I just, I think I hesitate a little bit when Fletcher starts, suggesting to have previous members of the fire department that's currently suspended serve on the advisory committee to advise the direction of the department. That's my only concern, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Did I suggest that?
No, but I did.
It's all
good.
It's all good. Sue?
Just as you're going through this thoughtful composition of this committee, the question occurs to me that a committee is also to be established for the strategic plan.
Maybe.
And I know that's a different topic,
Yeah.
but I think thinking about them together is important because they're going to do the same thing. They're going to look at the AP Triton report. They're going to look at the issues, recommendations, very much the risk analysis is what Rich was talking about, needed to be a focus, and where the town wanted to invest and how it wanted to approach providing the risk management, to put it in a very high level way, the town wants. And I've done a lot of planning, and I would say that form follows function when you're very clear about the functions. And it's a very important conversation to be had also about what we will do as a town and what we will ask other towns to partner with us on. That was a very big theme as well. I think everybody knows that's what we're doing today, right, with mutual aid, but in a different way. We get to the next place. So in setting up these two things, and we're a small town.
They're not, I'm not sure that we're gonna have two things.
All right, okay, well, you're going to where I'm going. We're a small town, we have limited resources and time.
Yeah.
And I just wondered how those relate to each other, and could that be talked about here? I know it's a separate agenda item,
It's the next agenda.
The very next agenda.
but this will relate to that.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
it will. We didn't.
It's all connected. Okay, so,
Right, they could be the same agenda item in a lot of ways, because,
well, the next one is actually is about requests for proposals as opposed to standing up a strategic planning committee. So we may or may not do that. We haven't decided yet. But in actual fact, this task force does sound like it is a strategic planning committee to some degree. So,
in my mind, I was coming to the meeting to say, I do not think that we should be putting out requests for proposal to conduct a strategic planning study, because I think that is what this group is doing part of that. And if after we do this, there are some other things yet to do, I think we can do that. And I think instead of getting a strategic, paying a boatload of money for somebody who's telling us how to do strategic planning, I would rather invest the money in getting us a really good facilitator to help us with this process, which I think we can do. I don't think we need somebody to tell us how to create a strategic plan. I think we need to get in there and do the planning, do this work.
did you want to respond?
If I may just say, I've done a few strategic plans, and I think of the strategic planning that you get three things that one of them is a facilitator. A good strategic planner is a very good engager and brings people out in a new way.
Right.
A strategic planning consultant will also bring to you information from other places that really help to inform how you think about the issues and how to solve them. They open up the thinking is what they do. They bring other information. And the third thing that I always loved is they're writing the thing and letting us comment on it. It's our writing, but we're so busy trying to make decisions, having somebody else in a team create the document that we're going to agree on and implement. So those are three things: facilitation, other information, and writing the document. I just want to share that with you, and it could be this committee would take all those things on, but it's a big lift.
It is a big lift. It is a big lift. Yeah, I don't know, what do you think?
I have not written a strategic plan before, so I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, it sounds like the facilitator is the first key, and I agree with you that getting somebody who knows what they're doing to facilitate would be, I mean, I think what we're doing here is municipal therapy, and we need a therapist. You know,
Municipal therapy, that's a really funny concept.
I think, but from what Sue just said, you know, I don't know what the difference between a strategic planning consultant and a facilitator is, if a good strategic planning consultant is also a facilitator with writing skills.
Right, I guess part of it
I
is,
think
I think that we need, that there's planning that needs to be done beyond what is the model of this fire department. What's the model that we're gonna create? And we need to do that now. That's the piece that we have to do right now, because we need to get a functioning model up and running as quickly as possible. So I don't want to get bogged down. I guess I've been in a bunch of strategic planning also, and I feel like it can get really bogged down because strategic plans tend to go. My experience is that they are not things you can do in 4 months, which is what we need. You know, this time frame is 4 months. You know, and I don't think we can do an entire strategic plan in 4 months. Although I'm really, you know, I'm intrigued by what you're saying, Sue, and I agree with you in a lot of ways. I just worry that we won't be nimble enough to get this decision made and get us moving where we need to be. Because there are other things in that report, other things that we need to look at that are not related to this.
Right, that's true.
You know, there are other things that I want to put them off the table while we're dealing with this.
I think that's Morgan.
Hi, I just want to express, and I think you're bringing this up a little bit, I just wanted to explicitly say this. I'm concerned about how long this task will take. And I think that they're actually we're actually looking at 2 timelines here, right? We're looking at how do we get a fire department up and running now, because we can't rely on mutual aid forever. How do we get EMS up and running now, because we can't rely on rescuing forever? And then how do we create a sustainable fire and EMS system that considers the AP Triton report, et cetera? So I'm wondering if there should be some conversation about a timeline for what feels like a very urgent need, and then a timeline for feels like more of a maintenance kind of planning, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think this task force could do 2 things. It could be, you know, the immediate number 1, and number 2, the long term after that, not before that.
Actually, I disagree with that. I really think that the decision of what we do, whether we stand up the fire department, a new fire department, how we stand up a new fire department in the short term is its own decision. I think that decision is separate from this decision about what model we want. I think that we can do this modeling work if we get a good group of people and we work our butts off, I think we could get it done by September. It'd be a lot of work, but I think we could, at least that group could bring a proposal to the select board in September. I think somebody else has to decide what to do about the fire department in the interim. I just think they need to be two independent things, in my opinion.
So that's helpful to clarify. If this is the long-term decision-making process, how are we fixing how are we fixing this in the short term while the long-term process works?
Well, I guess I see 4 months as kind of an interim term, and I guess we have to decide whether that's. I think that's as fast as the longer term can work, and I don't have the answer for the immediate need. I can't. They're two big different things. Does that make sense? Like, I think if with this group we're tasked with figuring out the short term, what are we gonna do with the fire department, next week, or in 2 weeks, or in a month, we couldn't do the work that this is gonna take to answer the longer term, thought out, recommendations.
I think we'll develop a lot of information that'll be relevant to it, but I don't think they're the same thing.
Right.
So I agree with you. We need to address the immediate need.
And this plan is what's up for us right now. The immediate need, I don't know what to do with it. I don't have a recommendation for the immediate need, but I do have a recommendation for the short-term strategic modeling.
I suspect Brian is probably somebody who knows a lot more about the immediate need and how to address it than anybody at this table.
My question though is that what we want to talk about now?
Yeah, I don't think that's what we want to talk about right now.
That's a different question.
So just for clarity, Vernon's fire department was closed for 6 months. Just so everybody understands that. And that's how long it took them to come up with their own restructuring and to come up with a sustainable model. I personally am not comfortable with a ad hoc interim solution unless I have a lot more information about the liability issues and the other pieces that we've already brought up. Because my understanding is that we don't, by statute, don't have to maintain a fire station, and that if we do stand up a fire department, we better make sure that that fire department is up to snuff, because that's when we get into the liability issues. I'm just speaking as a fiscal agent of the town now. So I'm comfortable with keeping it the way that it is right now for the 4 months in order to stand up something that's really going to be sustainable.
I have a question when you're ready.
Yeah, 1 second, I see you, Louise. So that's my personal opinion. So Brian, would you like to answer?
Yeah, I think you have some certified guys. You have all the equipment that you need. I don't see why you couldn't do both. I think there's a bigger problem here than that we're trying to solve with the long-term plan. But the short-term need is a problem. I mean, you get times where you have a busy holiday weekend, and there's nothing saying that the towns right around us could be busy on calls of their own when we have a call, and you're putting somebody that's in serious trouble, waiting a long time. And I don't know as if I understand the risk part of it, and I don't see why you couldn't open the doors back up to the fire department, put very specific goals in place that you want to see met, let them get met, and then put some more goals in place. While all of this is going on for the long term, you could still keep your mutual aid coming, automatic, and you get your people from in town there, and they can, if it's something they can handle, they turn your mutual aid around. It's gonna save on the amount of times that they have to travel all the way to Putney. They may not even make it to the station, and somebody's on scene and can turn them around.
Yeah,
I still see you, Louise. I'll get to you in a second.
thank you. I don't have an opinion about what we should do in the short term. I don't have the answer to what we should do in the short term. As a select board member, I have a list of questions that I would need answered in order to know, even have a conversation about what we should do in the short term. So I'm super happy to say, these are the questions I need. I don't think talking about this in the select board meeting is necessarily the best format for coming up with a short-term solution for what to do with the fire department right now. I think maybe what we could do is say, as select board members, what questions do we need answered before we feel like we could feel comfortable standing up a fire department right now? And then give those questions to Karen and Brian and say, please answer these questions so we know where, we can make a reasonable decision. But I don't want I don't want to get sidetracked.
Right.
I don't want us to try to be making a decision about the short-term plans for the fire department right now. We don't have enough information. So I've got a bunch of questions here, if you guys can, I just need some answers to these so I can make a judgment, what would the leadership structure be? What are the job descriptions for the leaders of the fire department? Tell me what a membership entails, the list of people, the roster of current members. What's their existing level of training? What's the town liability issues? What are the limitations of the current mutual aid? These are questions that, how about some current mutual aid reports and, risk, just
So that
give us
sounds
some, I want to consider all these things, but here they are,
Right.
come back with the,
It's not something that we can decide in the moment here because we don't have the information. That's what you're trying to say.
Right, and I
So-
don't want to take the time now to go, well, I can answer that one question, and I can tell you that answer to that question. I want, maybe a proposal of, give us a proposal of what,
I wasn't necessarily thinking tonight, I was just thinking
Okay.
Right.
we could,
All right. So
Right.
So it sounds like maybe Peg and or me or somebody on the select board or maybe Karen and you guys can get together. Peg already has some well-articulated questions. Maybe the rest of us do. You can come up with a proposal or something like that. We can bring this back up on our next meeting on the
2 weeks.
8th. No, 1st.
First.
On the 1st.
But I would like to I want to give those questions to you, and I want to work on the long-term plan.
Okay.
I think we need to be doing some parallel things here. So I want to do this. Where are we going from here?
Can I say just one more thing?
Real quick. Sure. Yeah.
I just worry about waiting until September and losing some of the committed people to say, I get to practice for the game every week and I don't get to play essentially.
Yeah.
I worry about some of the people saying, you know what, I don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go somewhere else.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we articulate that a little bit offline with you, and we'll put it back on the agenda on for May 1st. Yes. So Louise, go ahead.
Hi, I've been listening to a good part of this conversation. I really appreciate what Brian's offering as a let's get something going as sooner than after the study. So I appreciate what Peg's doing, but I think that's a longer term, more questions asked and answered. And I also think you can't ignore Eleni at the diner with a financial burden. And what Morgan has just articulated, I'm coming at this new. I don't know all the background, but I'm saying I think there's some good ideas out there that should be honored. I'd suggest that Peg's resolution wait till 2 weeks out. I'd suggest that there be the meeting that Brian's suggesting with key people. And one more comment. There are 2 people on the around your table. There are select board members that I've heard nothing from. I'd like to hear. We voted for these people. What do you think? I'd like to hear from both of them before the conversation resumes and you figure out how to get to the next point on your agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Wait, what? So, I'm sorry, so what's your name?
Yes, a comment that's combined with a questions. You're basically talking about 2 models, I believe. There's a short-term emergency need, and then there's the quite soon modeling. They need to be coherent. My questions are, how long is it going to take to create your questions, get answers, compile them in a sensible, feasible, usable way? And I'm afraid that that's going to take way too long.
For which piece?
So I think there needs to be an appreciation for the importance of this short term. And if it gets prolonged by back and forth questions, and it's going to get out of hand. It's going to start out of hand. It's my fear. Thank you.
So I don't know, you talk about putting the liability and not having a town fire department. Why does that make it any fairer to put the liability on mutual aid department?
Because it's
that's not their job to show up? They don't have to. I think you put your faith in an interim fire chief that you appointed and let him do what he's got to do. If he's got certified guys and guys that have been there, make it happen. Because I don't know what this board thinks that's coming from mutual aid, but it could be 2 guys. Why does that make it fair that Putney can't help out with 3 guys if they got to put 5? That makes 5. This board is kind of, I don't think you understand what's coming from mutual aid. There could be 2 guys, there could be 1 guy, there could be 6 guys in the truck. But if you have guys in Putney, there's no sense that truck shouldn't be going out. These guys aren't fresh off, there's 20, 40 plus years experience sitting right there.
Well, I'd like to have that written down.
Maybe that's something we should be talking about now then.
It's not on the agenda.
Okay. Well, I think this is a bigger, this is putting the town more at risk than anything, than the townspeople, because that truck coming out of Dummerston or even out of Westminster, it's time consuming, and their priority is Dummerston and Westminster. If they're busy, it doesn't matter what's going on here. We're waiting for the next department that could be coming from Brattleboro or Walpole or wherever. To me, that's a big thing. We need to get those so that a truck can go out of here, even if they just handle the calls in town, forget the mutual aid. But trees on wires, anything like that, there's no sense in having mutual aid come down and sit and babysit that when we have guys that are capable of doing that stuff and getting started at a big incident. There's been a lot of big fires where that truck's gone out of there with 2 guys, and they've done what they can. You know, it takes a lot of common sense. You know, they're not gonna try to be heroes, but at least they can get stuff set up, so when that next truck comes in, they're not delayed even more.
Okay. I have 3 hands online and I have some hands in the room, so I've got Liz Adams, oh boy, Casey Darrow, who's
Billy
Billy Strauss. Did you have your hand up?
No.
Oh, what's your name?
Jonathan Bettis.
Okay, so I'm gonna start in that order. Liz, go ahead.
What Eric said just now makes the most sense. We can't afford to not have at least our core fire department going up and running all the time. And here's a for instance, in the mid-90s, I had my preschool going and I smelled propane. Got the kids, went down the road uphill because propane sinks. My neighbor's propane tank was leaking, and the fire department, our fire department was literally here in less than 5 minutes. And they, started watering down the propane because that's how you get rid of it, drive it into the ground. If I had to wait 30 minutes, our whole neighborhood could have gone up in flames. All it would have taken was one spark to ignite all the propane that had leaked. And I mean, those kinds of things are what you're putting the town at risk for if you don't have our own short-term fire department up and running. You're putting everybody's properties at risk. And to be honest here, what a lady said about the insurance, my insurance company hasn't asked since I first got insurance with them in 1980. And at that time they asked, how far are you from the fire department? And I was 1 mile. They haven't asked the question since, but if they did, I'd have to tell them 30 minutes. And then my insurance premiums would jump. So I think you're possibly underestimating what you're putting our town at risk for if we don't have this short-term fire department running. And I don't think you want, I just think you're underestimating what could go so drastically wrong here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Casey? Casey, you're muted.
Yes, I guess I'm echoing what a few other people have just said, but I'm a little shocked that we're hearing things like it's not on the agenda. I would like to suggest that the select board get the immediate need for reopening the fire department on the agenda, and I think it's a little absurd that it wasn't on the agenda for tonight. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you. Billy?
Hi, Billy Strauss. I think I'm going to sort of echo what Casey said, and I'm just going to say it this way. We have an interim fire chief. We have a town manager. They need to come forward with a specific plan that articulates the resources and the liabilities that we have on hand right now so that we can start where we stand. The town deserves that, and the town is waiting for that. Details matter, certifications matter, liability matters. It's a nuanced, tricky balance when you're talking about fighting fires and responding to emergencies. And while it would be great to just roll the trucks, and I hear what Eric's saying, I also know that when stuff goes sideways, that's when all of a sudden all those things get looked at. So we need to know as a town exactly who we're putting out on the trucks, what certs they have, and what range of services they're going to provide, so that there's no looking back and saying, well, gee, why were we running it that way when we didn't have the right coverage, or when it put us in a position of being liable for things going sideways on a major scene.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan?
I live in Putney. I agree with Eric and Brian. We gotta get the show going down there. If my neighbor's house catches a fire, God forbid, and I gotta wait for somebody to come, even if they know where to go, or a medical reason, you're not gonna make it. And to think that you can say, well, Vernon waited 6 months, are my taxes gonna come down because we're not rolling a fire truck? I mean, you can't sit there and say, well, they waited 6 months. We got this beautiful equipment that we spend lots of money every year on. Great, perfect world, we'd love to have it sitting there, but that ain't reality. And if something happens in my neighborhood, we're right in the brush fire season, it's mutual aid is great, but they got no responsibility to come and help us. They're doing it out of their good heart, as we would do to them. So we gotta get the ball rolling down there.
Okay, thank you. So Ashley Wolford had her hand up briefly. Did you still want to talk?
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of echo what everyone else was saying, so I lowered my hand, but
okay.
I just agree that I think getting the department going, even if there are a couple people, and still have mutual aid come, because yeah, I would hate to see a fire happen to the point that like I went out and bought extra extinguishers because of this, just in case. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to imply that we weren't going to do something in the interim immediately, but I do feel strongly that there are some answers to questions that I don't have, and I don't feel comfortable standing up a fire department that we previously shut down because we didn't have enough people. I don't feel comfortable doing that myself. So, and as much as everybody wants to get things going quickly, these things do take time. So I want good solid answers to questions. I don't want to speculate here at a select board meeting where we really don't have enough information to go one way or the other. That's my opinion.
I agree with that.
Thank you. So I think we will get this on an agenda soon, but we need to do some, like I said before, some offline talking with Brian and Karen about what specifically the answers we need. So going back to, and I see two other, Casey, do you have your hand up still?
No, sorry.
Okay. I have Lynn. Can you identify your full name?
Hi, my name is Lynn Weinstein, and I've been party to these discussions for listening to the town meetings. And I just want to go back to the last one, in which basically I think is why, Eileen, you're saying what you're saying. It became clear that we didn't have the staff to do what needed to be done, or we didn't have the answers as to what they were capable of or possible, because we didn't have the certifications. And Karen said this earlier in the meeting. In the last meeting, it sounded like we had 22 people, and now we have 10. As much as I hear Eleni and my heart breaks, I'm like, we do need to get this going again, but we need to do it carefully, and we do need to have these questions answered, and that really is on Karen and Brian, and I guess the select board, to make sure you know what the questions are and they can be answered before we are in a position to say we can start it. Like, let's start it as soon as we can, but let's know what we need to know before we start it.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Just one more thing. Just so people can kind of understand the whole picture here. There's been a problem at the fire department as far as people showing up. This isn't a whole bunch of people resign 2 weeks ago thing. This is a problem that has been coming for years. And there's times where even when we were at our best, you had to step back on what you did and wait for more people to come. It's case to case. You could show up and have, just be lucky and have, 10 certified guys right in town, just out of luck. You could have 1 certified guy in town. That's what you're faced with. But it's operationally, it's really not going to be a whole lot different than it was before the shutdown.
Okay. That's fair. I also just want to say I think what I'm also hearing is that there may be a bit of a false sense of security when if we're not able to do more, if we have 1 person versus 10.
Yeah.
I think people answering their insurance policies are maybe they're being overly optimistic. So I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you're saying, Brian, and I feel like if there's one thing I've learned through this process is I should have known more before, and I didn't know that. So now when I'm asking for more information, it's not because I feel like necessarily we're off track now. It's more just my sense of my newfound sense of responsibility to understand what we're doing with this, with our fire service and our rescue service, and making sure that we're doing it well, and we're, for everybody's sake, for the firefighters, for the rescue folks, for the town, for everybody. So.
Frank?
Yeah, I think to add a little bit to what Brian said, what people don't realize is there's times in town where we've had multiple calls and a truck has rolled out of there with 1 guy to a brush fire and started knocking the fire down until, they could finish up another call to come. That's happened numerous times. So it kind of is what it is. You gotta do your best, and that's how it's been done for years. So it's not really something that's new here.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. I guess we're just being a lot more transparent about what we do have at the moment, and that's probably in the long run a good thing, as painful as it might be in the moment. So I would like to get back to the discussion of the task force resolution, with the understanding that as soon as we can, we're going to get some questions answered. So what do we want to do with this?
I'm going to come back to, I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
To, what's my motion? My motion is to invite applications for the Fire and Rescue Advisory Task. First of all, to accept this resolution.
Okay, so first make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I make a motion to adopt this resolution.
Is there a
with
second?
the modifications that
number of
people is 9, and it includes 2 external to Putney people and 1 member of the Putney Volunteer Firefighters Association.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the Fire and Rescue Advisory Task Force resolution with the modifications Peg noted. Is there further discussion among the board? Are there comments online? Comments in the room? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the next thing.
I don't know.
This is not a motion, but we are accepting, yeah.
I would like to invite people, like all of our committees, if we go to our committee policy, basically remind me.
It's a letter of interest
to Karen, and she will bring them to the next select board meeting, and we will review them and hopefully stand up the committee.
Okay. So Everybody hear that? And I assume you get a prize for that too.
If you join that committee.
If you join that committee,
yeah,
right?
You get two
Or
prizes.
2 prizes. Okay. So moving on to the next piece is the request for proposals to conduct a strategic planning study. Do we want to do that? Sounded more like we're, not at this time.
Not
I mean,
at
it
this
sounds
time,
like,
I would say.
sounds like maybe that would be a recommendation from the task force, but no, we don't want to do that right now.
Right.
Okay, so should we table that?
Move to table.
So the next.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
How do we go about, what's the best way to think about getting a facilitator? We don't have to like do it, we're not gonna pay them that much money that we have to do an RFP, do we?
Don't know.
I wouldn't think so.
Right.
No.
I mean, if there's like somebody in town that would volunteer their time, that would be really awesome, but
I think we should get
somebody who's trained.
Somebody needs to be trained.
We need somebody good. So,
I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe
okay,
reach
I'll do a
out
little
to.
research on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a connection that we can
Okay.
utilize.
Okay.
Okay. The next piece is a forensic audit discussion, that's Fletcher.
Yeah, were you able to find anybody who's capable of doing it? Any,
No, I've been kind of dealing with fire department.
oh, you're telling me you had other things to do.
Yeah, and I did take a vacation, don't forget that.
What? Who authorized that? Yeah, I mean, I think we're at a point where we just need we need some people who can do it. I mean, the thinking behind this is very simple. We hired these people to do the Triton report. The Triton report says we need to do an audit. I think we should do what the report says, so now it's just a matter of...
It's a recommendation, not something that has to be done.
Well-
And I think if you're gonna wait on the strategic plan, that is part of the strategic plan.
I disagree. I think there's a more
Make a
immediate
motion
need.
then.
I mean, I think,
Well, we have to decide as a group.
I move that we appoint whoever we can find who's competent and qualified to do a forensic audit.
is there a second?
You better put a cost, you know.
That's why I kind of wanted to
Yeah,
hear
I mean-
back.
Well, I mean,
A forensic audit can cost up to $60,000.
And until we get somebody who's qualified to do it, who puts a number on it, we don't know whether that's true or not. I'm sure you could pay that much, but I don't know that we have to. But
So you're
we're
at-
kind of at a loss for information. I can't put a number on it because I haven't even heard who's out there and says they can do
Well,
it.
maybe you should make possibly a motion whether we want to do that or not.
Whether
And then we can, and then if it passes, then we can investigate how much.
I move that we approve a forensic audit, at least of the fire department, if not, well, the rest of it, let's leave the rest of it, but that we accept the recommendation of the AP Triton report and approve finding someone to perform a forensic audit of the fire department.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the recommendation of the AP Triton report to conduct a forensic audit. Is there discussion on the board?
I think it's an important thing to do maybe eventually, but right now we need the fire department, and I think that should be a priority.
Okay, I don't think that it's necessary myself. I'd like to know the reasoning why we would need to do that. I haven't really heard. I would be in favor of audit of including the fire department in our normal auditing process, if they aren't already.
It is.
But I don't feel the need to go back and audit the department myself. I see you, Billy. I'll call on you in a second.
Yeah, the way I sit right now, unless I am convinced otherwise in this discussion, I would not vote for an audit at this point. I feel like so much has changed in the fire department. and that I don't think it would be that useful to go back and audit. At this point, I'm more inclined to move forward and make sure we have systems in place that are functional and are not going to yield problems, that are going to prevent problems from happening, than going back and unpacking other stuff. That's just
Billy?
I'm going to agree with Nate here and just say that, like, with everything that the town manager and the interim fire chief and the department and the select board have on their plate with respect to getting a fire department up and running again, a forensic audit at this point would be an enormous distraction for the fire chief and for the town manager and for town hall. And I think it would be a very, very silly move at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Are there comments in the room? I've forgotten your name, I'm sorry. Pam, thank you.
There are different things that come out of, I'll call it a financial audit, not necessarily a forensic audit. A few of the things that come out are your processes and procedures, your controls that you have in place. They make recommendations as to how you can make changes to better improve those processes. I think the board really should consider some sort of audit to find out where there are weaknesses. If the money was spent for the AP Triton report to get findings or results, why not act upon what the report suggests that you do? It's the perfect opportunity and the perfect time to do it.
I mean, we do have an audit process, and it does recommend financial checks and balances. That's why I was asking whether the fire department was included into it. It's the forensic piece that, like Peg said, so many changes have happened since that report has come out that it doesn't really seem that useful to me at the moment. And maybe in the future, maybe we want to do that as a forensic audit specifically. Whoopsie, don't do that.
How do I do this?
Go back to view.
Yeah, view.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
Full screen.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, thank you.
I was like, panic.
Don't touch the mouse. I've lost my train of thought, but Karen, did you?
I just want to make a comment that in the AP Triton, it's not specific to the fire department, it's the entire town.
Well,
So-
it starts with the fire department and then says, and probably the whole town as well, but it starts, the AP Triton report is primarily about the fire department.
Yeah, but my comment is that if you're gonna do an audit like that, and it states the entire government, then, because part of that financial stuff is linked here. So, you're gonna be looking at all of it.
Well, that may be.
Which is, you know, I don't have an issue with that. But I just want to make it clear that it's a town audit.
Okay.
What about getting some prices, and then we can
Yeah.
go from there. At least we know what we're up against. We have that for when it does, if we decide to do it.
If somebody wants to amend the motion, but I have Laura Chapman online.
Hi, thanks for hearing me. Just a suggestion with the changes that the town has been through recently, maybe reaching back out to the folks at AP Triton and checking in to see what order they would recommend this happening in and whether or not they would prioritize a financial audit at this point or forensic audit.
That's a good suggestion. Pam, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I would just say that maybe as you go through your risk assessment and your remodeling of your fire department, that you would think about the controls and the checks and balances during that process for things like that.
That sounds like a good plan. Is there further discussion among the board? Are there other comments in the room about conducting a forensic audit? Any comments online? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Aye.
So it's, the motion fails. Moving on to the East Putney Community Center ARPA application review, discussion, and decision. This was, basically, we forgot to put this on the agenda last time to close this loop. So we just need to, close the loop. So, do we have the amount?
It was $6,000.
Okay. So can I hear a motion to expend ARPA funds in the amount of $6,000 for the Pierce's Hall renovation project?
So
It's been moved and seconded to allocate the sum of $6,000 of ARPA funds to the Pierce's Hall renovation project. Is there discussion among the board? Any comments in the room? Any comments online? Hearing none.
Yeah, you're good. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks
All
for
in,
coming.
okay. Wait, I'm gonna wait for the exodus here. Bye, everybody. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
You're our last penny.
That was it. We did it. We actually did it. Yay. All right. Okay.
Any questions?
No. We do not have any questions.
Well, this has been the most interesting meeting. Really appreciate it.
We're not done yet.
I'll stay.
Okay, so the next piece is the rules of procedure for committees and commissions that I mentioned last week. This is for boards, commissions, and committees other than the select board. And as I mentioned last week, I've stripped out a little bit of stuff that is in our rules of procedure for select board members. I added in number 1 that the body may elect 2 co-chairs and 1 clerk. And then I also added a remote piece somewhere. Under meetings, I added that boards and commissions, meaning statutory boards like the Development Review Board, Conservation Commission, Planning Commission, Select Board, shall strive to conduct hybrid meetings whenever possible. And then I added, if allowed by statute, advisory committees can conduct remote-only meetings as long as they are properly and prominently noticed. That's a statute a law that's, they don't call them laws, a bill that's making its way through, I think it's at the Senate at the moment, to allow remote meetings in forever, because that law currently expires in July. So that piece is there. And then members of the body shall strive to attend all meetings in person. I added that piece. I think I added that piece. That might actually be in ours too. And then I added a member attendance clause, which I used the number 4 because most committees meet monthly, and 4 meetings seem like a lot to miss in a year. So that's what I did. And this is to, basically we would disseminate this to all the chairs of our committees and commissions and boards so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel and create their own and disagree about them. So everybody had a chance to read it? Karen?
Just one quick visual here on page 3. We have to fix the numbering. My mind is out of sequence.
Whoops.
It's okay.
Oh, it's always one day, you know.
This formatting on this is such a pain.
Well,
Yeah.
because I take the doc X's, I take the Word documents and I stick them into Google Docs and it doesn't,
Yeah.
it doesn't work very well. And then I spit it back out to Karen.
Yeah. So unfortunately, the signature page is on the page when you.
Of course it is. Well, let's just, if everybody's in agreement, we can approve it tonight, we can sign it later. So, can I hear a motion to adopt the rules of procedure for committees and, for Putney boards, commissions, and committees?
So moved.
Is there a second? So it's been moved and seconded to adopt the rules of procedure for Putney boards, commissions, and committees, with the numbering corrected. Is there further discussion among the board?
I'd like to just say that I've been troubled for a while by the public participation language. It feels off-putting to me. I think I'm a huge believer in public participation. And the tone of this just feels off-putting. I can't tell you, well, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, well, if you want to suggest different language, we can do that. This comes from ours. I don't think I changed anything.
Well, it comes from the League of Cities and Towns. And
No, I know, but
and I have a problem with their sort of attitude about participatory democracy as well. I think they do a lot of great things and they're a great support to us, but they also are much more in favor of administrative handling of town governance than public participation. And I personally really like public participation. But
okay. Well, if you have changes to the wording.
not on the fly.
Okay. So it's, we did put it on the table, right? We had a motion? Okay. Is there further discussion among the board? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 4 to 1. So that passes. So, select board reports, draft blight ordinance, that's got your name on it, Eric?
Nothing.
Draft sidewalk policy?
Nothing.
Cannabis control board, Nate?
Same update as last time, which we are meeting on Monday.
Okay, oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We do do something.
We just have one piece.
I know.
And then we'll have a discussion, but
Okay.
we're pretty close.
Yeah.
We should spend some time on it.
Okay. So we are going to go into an executive session to briefly talk about Karen's contract. But before I do that, the next meeting is May 1st.
Don't forget, tomorrow night is the public
Yeah, that's
presentation.
not warned as a select board meeting, but there is a
No.
Conservation Commission presentation. It's not really a hearing. It's a Conservation Commission presentation on the, what was it called? The Wilson Wetlands flood mitigation.
Flood resiliency.
Sea study.
On Sackett's Brook.
Yeah. So, and they're doing it at the library, and it's at
Correct.
5:30?
6 o'clock.
Oh, it's 6 o'clock, oh, good. 6 o'clock, and it is going to be filmed by BCTV, so if you can't make it, that would be happening. I don't know if it's gonna be remote. It's not gonna be remote, is it?
It
there a hybrid?
is.
There's a
Yeah.
hybrid. It's the full thing. Hybrid, everything. Oh, it's all
They will
good.
have a Zoom option.
Huh?
They will have a Zoom.
They will have a Zoom option, okay. So I encourage everybody to take that in, because the select board will have to make a decision on one of those options. So public comment is important on that one. Well, public comment's always important, but that one, hopefully everybody has that on their calendar.
The report is on the website.
Yeah. under Wilson West Welland?
It's right on the homepage, all you can do is click on it.
Oh, okay, great.
So,
Love it. All right. So, can I hear a motion to go into executive session under Title I VSA 313A3, the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, provided that the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public official or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for its final decision during the open meeting. And we will not be inviting Karen in at this point.
So moved.
So are we going into executive session and then coming back out into?
And, yeah, I think we are making a decision.
We're making a decision. Okay.
Yeah,
we
sorry.
can hang out together, Gail.
Yes.
Got a deck of cards.
Okay.
Gail is like, right.
Wait, I haven't had, so I had a motion, I said here a motion, but we haven't actually done it, guys. So.
I move that we go into executive session.
Okay, is there a second?
Third, and I already did, yeah.
We did do that. Okay, sorry.
We can there, come back.
So it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session under Title I VSA 313A3. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we've come out of executive session at 8:38. Can somebody make a motion?
Do you get the wording there?
Make a motion to go into negotiations with Karen for a future contract.
That sounds good.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to go into negotiations with Karen for a future contract. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Second. Or so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.